Hello and welcome to Experts Live UK Community Voices. This series is all about the people behind the Microsoft community, the speakers, the experts and community leaders from across the Microsoft ecosystem who willingly spend their spare time talking about technology for fun. I'm Bruce Cullen, and in each episode I sit down with speakers and community leaders from across the ecosystem where we talk about their journey, how they got started, the challenges they faced, and ultimately what led them to where they are today. But there is a twist. Each guest is, of course, an expert in their own area of Microsoft technology. So I'm going to have them teach me something I didn't know. Now, I've spent my days in product management and software engineering, so it should be quite easy because I don't know the world of IT pros as well. And it would be rude of me not to get some free education at the same time. So expect some real technical insight. From an introduction to an area to the tricks and tips that separate our guest from the rest, the lessons learnt the hard way, and the things they wish that somebody had explained to them before the third late night of troubleshooting. The goal is simple: to learn something genuinely useful from people who build, break and fix this stuff for real. So whether you're just starting out or well into your career, this is about practical knowledge, real experience and learning from the community. Now, normally I have a co-host with me, but as you can probably see today, for those of you who are watching this, I have no co-host today. So let's hope I don't say anything stupid. I haven't got anyone to hit me. But luckily I'm not alone. I'm joined by today's special guest, who is Ståle Hansen, who is CEO at Cloudway and a Copilot MVP. Welcome to the show, Ståle.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this.
Thank you. Let's get started. All right, so a good starting place. Please, can you introduce yourself to listeners? Who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Ståle Hansen. I'm a Copilot MVP. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director. So I've been very enthusiastic about learning about Microsoft technologies, working as a consultant with Microsoft technologies since I would say 2005, 2004-ish. So it's been a minute. Yeah, and my day job, I'm a CEO of Cloudway, as you mentioned. I'm also a principal cloud architect, and I am a digital well-being coach. So since I run the company, I can also choose the title I want. So yeah, there we go.
Sounds like a great perk of running your own company. I'm going to start with the MVP stuff. In particular, what is a regional director and how is a regional director different to a regular MVP? I've heard that term before, but I've never had anyone to ask what it means.
Yeah, so I think you will get a different answer wherever you ask, like the different regional directors as well. But it's an invite-only program. It's about 200 people worldwide. And we are closer connected to the Microsoft senior leadership. So it's not like it's a broader technical role. So it shows that you're like not just technical in one area, but you understand the broader Microsoft technology business stack, and also typically have a CXO role, so that you help Microsoft understand the market, the bigger part of the Microsoft ecosystem. So it's a two-way street as well. They inform us about what they do, and we give them feedback, and sometimes very straight feedback. So it's typically a regional director is also invited to the MVP ecosystem, but typically they are not tied to one technology.
Interesting. So, I mean, it's hard enough to keep up to date with a single technology. How do you keep on top of it all? Microsoft do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, no, you can't be an expert of everything. So you just need to have like a rude understanding of everything, how it's connected. But I've been working with, I started out back in the days with servers and Skype for Business and those kind of things. I got like very deep into the ecosystem of server infrastructure, and then you actually learn a lot. So typically you have a broad understanding and general understanding of a lot of technologies, and some firewall technologies that I could have been without, but still I know more about firewalls than I would care to.
I can definitely attest for infrastructure giving you a good grounding. Infrastructure and endpoints, desktop support are the two things I think everyone should do at some point, you know, for a career in tech.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. So you're CEO of Cloudway, which is your company, which is really, really cool. But what does Cloudway do?
So we are a Microsoft 365 consultancy company. So we help companies get the most out of Microsoft 365. We have a slogan which I came up with by myself, which is secure productivity happens in the cloud. We will help you on your way. Cloudway. Yeah, yeah,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Nice and
That's
clean,
very
nice and
nice.
clean. You should
So,
work in marketing.
yeah, I do that actually. So I'm the CEO. I do marketing. I do sales. I do the administration part of the company, but I'm also hands-on technical. And we are 7 people in 4 countries, and all of us are MVPs. So
Okay.
it's a privilege to work with such an enthusiastic set of individuals. And I'm proud to say that we kind of have a principle in every area of Microsoft 365. So we have a principle for compliance, identity, point management, and productivity, so that we can help all our customers in any stage of where they are in their Microsoft 365 journey. And we do trainings, we do hands-on, we do troubleshooting. So we do a bit of everything.
Okay. So what is that in terms of like a typical customer engagement? This is going to be a stupid question, by the way, but bear with me. In terms of a typical customer engagement, does that typically mean you end up pulling in all 7 potentially of your consultants with their different specialisms, or do you get people coming to you for one specific thing that's more sort of narrow in focus?
I would say yes. We do
Okay,
both.
good answer.
So, but we always try to onboard as a team because, as I said, no one can be an expert on everything, and we always try to bring the best competency to the table as we can. So we don't hire out people, but we do projects. So we are typically a very projects-focused company where we are doing like short workshops. We do implementations, proof of concepts, and those kind of things, and then we try to bring in the people in the team that can solve part of that delivery in the best possible way. But we also get like individuals of us get invited to customers and to solve a specific thing or do a specific thing. But we always try to involve the rest of the team because I think it's a win-win situation for all of us.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So I was going to ask, one of my pre-written questions was, what does a typical day look like? But I'm guessing from what you said so far is there is no such thing as a typical day. But I'll let you answer the question anyway.
Yeah, no, the typical day is whatever I need to do. So I think that's kind of like what my talk is about as well at the Experts Live, because I have so many different things to do, and I can get distracted and do nothing for a whole day, and procrastinate what I'm doing, and I could have updated some numbers, I've done some marketing, I could troubleshoot an issue with the customer, I could do some pre-sales, and there's so much different things to do, and sometimes it's not easy to go deep into a problem at the same time as you're doing thinking about marketing stuff and so on and so forth. So that's what I do typically. It's a bit of everything and like literally everything.
So there's 2 things I want to say at the same time. So obviously you're speaking at Experts Live UK, which is in June, which is really, really cool. What's your session called? Let's start with that one.
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me find the title here. So the title is How I Stay Focused in a World of Distractions and Notifications from Teams and Other Tools. So that's my one of my sessions. I have 2 sessions actually, but that's kind of like the one that's related to this conversation.
That sounds good to me. So, Lise, it's perfect. I answered my questions in the right order then, because my second question was, sounds like you're being pulled in all different directions all the time. If you could give me one tip for keeping on top of it all and actually executing, what would it be?
Microsoft To Do.
Microsoft To Do. Okay.
Yes, that's kind of like the one word, or that's 2 words actually. But anyway, that is how I survive because a core part of focusing is knowing what to focus on and how to prioritize. So I need to capture all my actions, and they need to go to the same place every time. So I'm heavily inspired by the Getting Things Done methodology by David Allen. He came out with that in 2001. It's not anything new, but what I have done as a digital well-being coach, I have systemized it for Microsoft 365, what it looks like in Microsoft 365. And that is some of what I'm going to share in my session as well. But I capture emails in To-Do, I capture my thoughts, I capture Teams messages, I capture everything I need to do in Microsoft To-Do. I think that's why it's called Microsoft To-Do, actually.
Makes sense. I'm going to have to counter this session. I use OneNote in a similar fashion, but badly, let's say.
Yeah, I do use OneNote as well, but only for manual note-taking. If I do that in meetings, still, of course, I try to use Copilot for that. But I also, from where, that's also where I'm documenting my long-term thoughts. So, for instance, session abstracts. That's where I document that, or information I want to come back to later. I document in OneNote, but all my tasks and actions and everything, it is in Microsoft To Do, which is also Planner. They are the same.
They are the same. I was going to ask that exact question because I was about to say, how does Planner come into it? Because I've heard of Planner and To Do. It's the same thing. Okay.
It's the same, but it's not. So Microsoft To Do still has its own API engine and all that, but the Planner app is surfacing all that and integrates with it. What happened 2 years ago? I did a YouTube video on that. It's kind of like, did Microsoft solve GTD in Microsoft 365 now? And they were about to, and then Copilot came and they were kind of stopped on that. But what they did at that time frame was bringing everything from To Do into Planner. So you have My Day, you have your tasks, your flagged emails, and those kind of things, so that you have the combination of the best of Planner and best of personal productivity.
Makes sense. Both are sort of useful and needed at the end of the day. And AI doesn't replace some of the things that, prioritization is just really, really hard to do and really, really important to stay on top of. Completely agreed. So, clearly, lots of juggling is involved. To Do will help you with figuring out what to prioritize, which might end up being part of the answer to my next question. But how do you balance basically running a company with staying technical?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% hands-on with customers. I might not be as deep technical as I once was, but I still write PowerShell scripts and do automation if needed to solve a problem. But mostly today I focus on adoption, change management, those kind of things. That's a topic I've been passionate about for many years. I started working with Link and Sky for Business and those kind of technologies, which combined very infrastructure-heavy deployments, automation, those kind of things, with which had implications for end users. So I've kind of like been in both worlds for a very long time. So with deep technical understanding and understanding how the technology works and giving the right advice for how to work smart in your workday. So I spend a lot of time helping customers understanding Copilot and how they can get the most out of Copilot. It's a new skill and all that. So it plays very well into my kind of like digital well-being, working smart in Microsoft 365 thinking. That's typically what I do, and then it's more about. It doesn't require that much preparations, but I do a lot of talks about it, I do trainings and so on and so forth. But then it's more project-based work that I do, and then it's not that hard to combine with running a company, because we run our company as a project, really.
Makes sense. Great answer too. All right, so we're gonna go back a bit further. So you are now CEO of Cloudway, but where did you start? How did you get going in your career? What led you to tech in the first place?
Yeah, so I've always been techie from the 90s. If you wanted to play a game, you had to build a computer. So I did that, built a computer in order to play games. And then we were at LAN parties in the 90s, where we we came together to game with each other, and then of course the first day was spent on getting the network running. So that's where you learn a lot, and then you had to actually switch the sound card with the other cards, the network card, because they were interfering with each other. So you had to run the sound card on IRQ 9, and then you had to use the address field 200 to 220 in order to get that to work. And you don't learn that by just playing video games. You learn that by getting your hands dirty. So that's kind of like where it started. And then I took a bachelor in computer science in the beginning of the 2000s. And then that was around when the .com bubble hit. So it was a very hard time to get a job. So even though you had an education within computer science, you couldn't even get a service engineer job, or there was like no jobs available. So I ended up in sales. So I ended up spending 3 or 4 years in sales, selling mobile phones and computers and those kind of things. And that gave me a kind of good fundament for what I do today, really, because you get to like talk to people in a different way and understand how the sales mentality works. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then I got the opportunity to go technical. So I went into a consultancy firm, system integrator, worked there for 7 years, and I focused on Microsoft Exchange and live communication server back in the days. So that's kind of like been my expertise and journey the next 20 years after that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It's interesting, the whole .com thing, because everyone hears about the upsides and no one thinks about what happens after it. But very cool. Yeah. So then that's how you got into your career. So how about starting your own company? How did that come to be rather than just working for other consultancies?
Yeah, so no, I did that for quite some time. So I spent from the 10 years maybe working for the other companies, but you come at one point where you kind of like, hey, I can do this myself, or understand kind of like how things work now, and you might be in a different place in your life as well, and you see that I want to do this thing, and if that company I work for doesn't want to do that, well, I can do it myself then. So so that's kind of like the background for starting the company. So we started Cloudway back in 2016. I started by myself, but heavily supported by my wife, who is an accountant. So I might not ever have done it without her, because that's a part of running a company that I don't know. And I would think that if I were to learn accounting and all those practical things as well, I probably wouldn't have done it, or I wouldn't have succeeded doing it. So that's an important advice. If you're to run a company, do the accounting right. That's kind of like, remember that.
Top of the list. Makes
sense. And
then
that was 2016, and then it was about being an expert in the field and helping companies succeed with the technology. And then I wanted to build a team of very passionate individuals. So we not everyone in Cloudway has been an MVP. It is not a requirement, but what we're looking for is people with passion and passion for technology, and kind of like have a clear direction of what they're focusing on from a technology point of view. And then so everyone who has started at Cloudway has become an MVP because they have that passion, and then we have guided them some of getting there. So we are 7 people now in 4 countries, so we are a virtual team and work remote. We are happy to have the people that are available to work with us at the time. Things change as well, and it's not for everyone, since we only work at our home office.
Very much the same here. Welcome. That makes sense, though. Makes sense. Good answer as well, by the way.
Thank you.
And I agree, sort of the power of like working to everyone's strengths and weaknesses. Not everyone's going to know everything that's involved in kind of like starting your own business, but as long as you can find those people to support you on that journey, that's the most important thing, and certainly in my experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to sort of switch his gears slightly to start to focus on community now. So clearly, in order to become an MVP, it isn't just about knowing technology; it's about sharing that knowledge with others effectively, which inevitably involves an element of sort of community. So, what first drew you into community? What did that kind of look like for you?
Well, I started my community journey back in 2007, I think. And it was about like, I always had the wish to share what I've learned and share experience and so on. Because what I don't like is when people, like, I know it, and then you have that issue and you didn't know that I knew it. So then you had to go and do the same as I did instead of like learning from what I did. So I started sharing internally within the company, but it wasn't that kind of environment. So I started blogging, and I think that is how I got into the community. So I started to share publicly through blogging. It was a time when blogs were the way to go, and I still think it is. To share your knowledge and document your knowledge. But what happened was that I outsourced my memory, both so other people could see it, but I also used those experiences. So that actually helped me elevate my career, really, because I didn't have to always relearn what I've learned all the time. I could yeah, I know that, so now I can focus on this. And that has really helped me in my career, and that is the way I started sharing with the community as well. So blogging, Twitter was a big thing back then when it was linear, and it was a good thing. And then I started speaking at conferences, so I always like wanted to share my my expertise. 2011, I think, I did my first international conference, and in 2014, I was invited to Vegas at the Microsoft Link conference, and I talked about phone number management and automation with PowerShell for 1 hour and 15 minutes at a conference in Vegas. So that was kind of like that was cool.
That was cool. That's a great mashup of like physical phone, like old-fashioned phone numbers and PowerShell and tech. That's quite cool as well.
Yeah,
Obviously,
yeah.
Vegas is quite the place. Fast forward to now, you're a Copilot MVP. Now, I was on LinkedIn last week, I think it was, for work, and I found some post popped up that said there are now 78, products from Microsoft that have Copilot in their titles. It's a broad church, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what does Copilot mean to you? What particular flavor of Copilot is your choice here?
Yeah, and I agree. There are a lot of Copilots. What I'm seeing though is they are being more and more unified, which means that it doesn't feel like all those different Copilots. And Copilot for me, of course, is Microsoft 365 Copilot in the flow of your productivity and your workday to help you going more easily from nothing to something in your workday journey. So it's all those small things really. When you're taking notes in meetings with Copilot in Teams meetings, creating documents and bypassing that hard get to started with draft phase of the work and more on like adding and finishing up your work, and that is kind of like what I focus on with Copilot specifically.
That makes sense. I use M365 Copilot, and the experience, that's the phrase I'm after, in using all the various Copilots is kind of similar, which is good in that, if you know how to interact with one, you know how to interact with all of them. I think from a terminology perspective, it's sort of somewhat confusing, but it makes sense in terms of where you use it in your workflow, which leads nicely on to the point I need, where we'll learn something from you. I already have learned so much from you. The whole to-do-list planner is a learning, for example. What's one sort of tip you could give me? One thing that I need to know about Copilot, ideally, but about anything at all.
So here's a big thing to learn for Copilot. You need to pay attention now. And I did some thinking about this, and this is what I talk about when I talk to people. It's all about memory. So you need to build the memory. So Copilot has no memory initially. So and you have two places in Microsoft 365 Copilot where you build memory. In the Copilot app, you have settings where you can go and add custom instructions. So you can tell Copilot about yourself, how you want Copilot to behave, how you want Copilot to answer you, follow-up questions or not, or long form, short form. Everything is customizable. So you can give that instruction, and that is a custom instruction that follows you in your Microsoft 365 Copilot journey. But then, as I said as well, I like to go from nothing to something to help Copilot jumpstart my process. But that doesn't mean I have one conversation. I might have multiple conversations. An agent that does things for me. I might use SharePoint agent. I might use check my emails or internal communication. Have you talked about that subject? But all those answers you store in a Word document. That is your memory for that conversation, because you will then pick the best of those answers and those resources, just paste it into a Word document. Don't think about the formatting, and that will be your source. Because the problem with generative AI is that it knows everything and it has no context. So the more context it has, and then the more narrow down the scope, like authoritative source that you can get, the better the answer will be. So that is when Copilot starts working, because now I can interrogate this Word document. It's 100 pages, but I know that everything is in there that is correct information because I validated that throughout the journey. Now I can start writing my Word document, my presentation, and so on and so forth. So typically that will be my source for writing the Word document, and then eventually jump starting a PowerPoint as well. So that's my big tip.
How do you, so you've built out this Word document, there's your answers that you've personally validated, that's your context. How do you like feed that into Copilot? Do you sort of drag and drop it in each time to the chat, or is there something more clever?
No, it's copy paste.
Okay.
I like that answer, copy that, just paste it into the Word document, and you're good. Easy as that. So nothing magical. Microsoft is also heading in that direction, but it's kind of like there's kind of like not one way to do it. So for now, I still use like I build my own Word document, and then that will be my authoritative source. So it works quite well actually, and then you start to get practical help from Copilot instead of it giving you like random answers based on knowledge about everything.
Makes sense. That's a great tip. I've never thought to do that. I just assumed that because I talked to it about it before it knew, but it doesn't seem to always.
Yeah, it knows more and more, but still, when you talk about a new subject, and then you need to narrow down the scope. So that is also like Copilot as an engine, or generative AI as an engine. It's pretty awesome, but you need to give it context.
Makes total sense. So I'm gonna switch gears. Thank you for that learning. I have learned something. I've learned multiple things, which is brilliant. So you've been in tech for a good while. You know, talking about addressing different physical cards in PCs and different port ranges is sort of the evidence of this. So you've seen a whole bunch of stuff over your time in tech. If you could tell your younger self something, when you were starting out in tech, what would it be?
Yeah, super hard question, and I don't have a good answer for that. So I would say choose your path and keep doing it for the next 20 years.
Makes sense. And how would you go about deciding what your path is? You know, thinking back to when I was that age, I had no idea.
No, and typically, like me going into Exchange and the live communication service, the reason I did that was because, hey, they needed someone who needed to know that, and you do that, and I did that, and then I got stuck with that. So, but it's also like I thought it was fun and it was very challenging because it was a very complex product. At the same time, it was quite mainstream, so a lot of people needed it. And it helped me build like general knowledge and those kind of things. But don't be afraid to go in a direction that brings you passion. So an area that you like. But I also see that you only like what you work with as well. So it's kind of like a two-way street. But it makes it more fun to learn more about the subject you work with. So my recommendation would be to if you are working within an area and a product or a subject, go deep into that subject, because it actually gets more fun. Because then the hard things for like the normal person might be easy for you, and that's fun, and then you can like help people and those kind of thing. So yeah, go deep and commit to the subject that you are working with, whatever it is. Because it makes it just more fun.
I agree. So thinking about where Microsoft is going now and the industry in general, what's the one thing that's sort of exciting you the most around Microsoft technology and the future of tech?
Well, it's never boring. So especially around Copilot, it's kind of like, oh yeah, you changed now. You talked about it on Friday and it's released now on Monday. That's okay. That's cool. So change is always there. And I actually forgot your question.
That's okay. Well, I mean, you sort of answered it already, really. I was going to ask, what's the one thing that's sort of exciting you right now in the area of Microsoft tech? What are you going to sort of focus on or look at next? But the fact there is constant change is definitely part of the answer, and that there probably won't just be one thing, but that was the question.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
No, so the next thing for me to look into is work is a vibe now with generative AI and so on and so forth, especially within IT Pro, probably within development as well. So to understand like work is a vibe. So if you're not like vibing your ideas with generative AI, then you're missing out. So the next thing for me is dive into GitHub Copilot, so that I get also the developer part of it as well, because that's also a way of vibing. So if I'm using Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot to vibe a PowerShell script, I'm doing it wrong, because GitHub Copilot is so much better at that. So using the best of breed of the different Copilots, I think is interesting. Because the direction Microsoft is heading is that everything will be accessible through an API as well. And I think the new co-work agent that you got with Anthropic in Copilot recently, that actually has access to the Graph API for you, can do stuff for you, can actually book a meeting for you. Well, you can also do that from GitHub Copilot, but it can interface with a lot of other APIs. And then you don't need to know how to code, but you need to know how to vibe with it. That's going to be kind of like my next skill that I need to learn.
That's a great answer. I could definitely, in fact, GitHub Copilot, being that my background is software engineering predominantly, rather than like, hands-on really these days, GitHub Copilot is the one I could definitely attest to as being good. And it's to do with the fact it's tailored to its use case, So things like you want to merge some code and you put together a pull request, and it will effectively, you can, if you want, code review your pull request for you and give you practical things to suggest. It's got loads of context in the form of your code, and it's in the flow, it's in the pull request that you're sort of working with, which is just fantastic. So I could definitely attest to that being worth it.
Yeah. So my suggestion then, if you come for development, also start learning Microsoft 365 Copilot, agents, Copilot Studio, those kind of things. If you come from Microsoft 365 Copilot, learn GitHub Copilot, so you get like the full package of work is a vibe, which is kind of like my motto for at least until end of April. Yeah.
To the end of April. There might be something new that comes. Change is inevitable. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode of Experts Live UK Community Voices. But of course, as we've mentioned a couple of times, Ståle is going to be talking at the conference, which is the 11th and the 12th of June. Tickets are, of course, now on sale. We have a one-day and a two-day variant. One-day tickets are practically free, essentially, at £130 a go, and the two-day tickets are £215, so not too bad at all. And you're hearing over these podcast episodes the sorts of calibre of guests that we have for this conference. So if anything that Ståle has said that has particularly resonated with you, it has with me, I'm going to be going into the depths of planner and to do as a way of sort of managing my life, basically. It's definitely worth looking at the conference and engaging with both of the days. Day one is sort of deep dives and workshops, and day two is sort of regular conference, so regular sessions, many networking opportunities as well. So do go and check that out. So all that's really left to do is to say a huge thank you to you, Ståle, for sharing your journey, your experience, and for most importantly, teaching me something new without making me feel stupid like I should have known it already. So thank you for joining us. In our next episode, I've got two options in terms of guests, and the scheduling has not yet been figured out. So it's either going to be Martin Himkel or James Robinson, I think. So join us for those episodes. I'm slowly working my way through the speakers of Experts Live UK based on who I happen to get availability from first. So those will be good chats. And if there's someone you'd like for me to speak to, please do point me in their direction. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Bruce Cullen. And of course, if you have any questions for any of our upcoming guests, you can fire those my way, or of course at Experts Live UK on LinkedIn as well. So please do that. And of course, if you've liked this episode, please do like and subscribe, share, give it to your friends and family. Of course, it's on LinkedIn at Experts Live UK, as well as Spotify and the like. So yeah, please do those things. And thank you, Ståle, for joining me today.
For me.
Thank you for watching. Until next time, goodbye.